Hey man, when she starts telling you her problems, you might think she's opening up, that she's trusting you, that it's a sign of closeness. And yes, sometimes it is, but not in the way you think. A woman doesn't share her struggles because she wants solutions. She shares them because she wants to feel seen. She's testing whether your energy can hold her chaos without trying to fix it, whether you can sit in her storm and stay calm instead of trying to control the weather. Most men make the mistake of responding with logic, offering advice, quick fixes, or rational explanations, but that's not what she's looking for. She wants emotional presence, not problem solving. She wants to know that you can stay grounded when she's spinning, that your peace isn't fragile, and that her emotional world doesn't scare you away. When she tells you her problems, she's not asking for repair, she's searching for resonance. You have to understand something deeper here. When a woman shares her problems, it's rarely about the surface story. It's not really about her coworker or her family or what someone said. What she's truly doing is inviting you into her internal world. She's showing you what makes her anxious, what makes her angry, what makes her vulnerable. Most men hear her words, but they don't listen to her emotions. They get caught in the logic of her sentences and miss the meaning underneath. The truth is, if you can learn to hear her feelings rather than her words, you'll understand her better than 99% of men ever will. Because emotional attunement, the ability to sense what she's really feeling, even when she doesn't say it, is what separates a man she opens up to from a man she distances herself from. But here's the dangerous part. When she tells you her problems, she's also watching how you handle them. She's reading your tone, your body language, your patience. If you interrupt her, dismiss her, or look distracted, she'll remember it. If you get defensive or make it about yourself, she'll silently pull away. Because in her mind, that moment revealed a truth, that your presence can't hold her. And once a woman believes your presence can't contain her emotional chaos, she loses trust in you. She won't say it out loud, but you'll feel the distance. Her tone will change, her warmth will fade, and the connection will quietly die. That's why emotional composure is so powerful. When you can listen without losing your calm, without letting her emotions shake your peace, she starts to feel something she can't explain, safe. And that feeling for a woman is everything. What most men don't realize is that women are emotional mirrors. They reflect the energy you give them. When she's upset and you become frustrated, her storm intensifies. But when she's emotional and you remain grounded, her energy begins to settle. You don't even need to say much. Just your calmness alone regulates her. That's the masculine gift most men overlook. True strength isn't in solving her problems, it's in becoming the peace her emotions crash against and find stillness in. When you try to fix her, she feels unseen. But when you simply hold space for her, she feels understood. The difference is profound. One builds resentment, the other builds trust. Because when she feels that she can unravel around you without judgment, her attraction toward you deepens beyond words. But here's the subtle test, hidden in it. When she shares her problems, she's also unconsciously testing your emotional maturity. She wants to see whether your ego can handle her vulnerability. Because when she's opening up, she's exposing the parts of herself that she usually hides from the world, her insecurities, her fears, her disappointments. If your reaction is cold, dismissive, or impatient, it tells her that she can't risk showing you her soul. And when a woman feels she can't show you her soul, she'll eventually stop showing you her heart. On the other hand, when you respond with stillness, not neediness, not advice, just grounded empathy, she begins to feel something rare in today's world, emotional safety. That's when she starts trusting you more. Not because you said the right things, but because your energy told her you could handle the truth of her. Here's the thing, a woman doesn't want to be analyzed when she's emotional. She wants to be felt. Logic has its place, but timing is everything. When she's pouring out her emotions, she's not in her logical brain. She's in her emotional body. Trying to fix her problems in that moment is like speaking English to someone who only understands music. She won't hear you. The best thing you can do in that moment is listen, hold her, or simply say something like, "I understand why that hurts." That one sentence does more than 100 solutions, because what she truly wants is acknowledgement, the reassurance that her emotions make sense, that she's not crazy for feeling what she feels. Once she feels that validation, her emotional brain relaxes, and only then will she become receptive to reason. That's when your logic can actually help her. But don't mistake this for being her therapist. There's a balance you must master, being empathetic without being her emotional dumping ground. If every conversation turns into her venting about her life, and you absorb all that negativity without boundaries, you'll start to feel drained. And once a man feels emotionally drained, resentment grows. So understand this, emotional support doesn't mean emotional slavery. You're not responsible for fixing her inner wounds or carrying her moods. Your role is to offer stability, not sacrifice. You can be her calmness, but never her crutch, because the moment you become her emotional sponge, she'll lose attraction. Women respect men who have empathy and boundaries, who can be gentle without being weak. The way you listen defines the dynamic of the relationship. If you listen with patience, you create intimacy. If you listen with irritation, you create distance. When she feels truly heard, she begins to relax in your presence. Her guard drops, her energy softens. That's the moment she starts associating you with peace, not pressure. And here's the truth. Women don't fall in love with the man who talks the most. They fall for the one who listens the deepest. Because listening, real listening, is rare. It requires discipline, attention, and humility, all marks of true masculinity. Every time you choose to be present instead of reactive, to understand instead of interrupt, you build an invisible bond with her, a bond based not on words but energy. There's also a hidden layer most men miss. When a woman starts opening up emotionally, she's revealing how much she trusts you. The more she talks, the more of her she's letting you see. But that trust is fragile. One careless reaction can undo weeks or months of emotional openness. If you respond to her vulnerability with mockery or impatience, she won't confront you about it. She'll simply stop trying. And when a woman goes silent, that's not peace. That's emotional detachment. You'll think everything's fine because she's not complaining anymore, but in reality, she's shutting down. That's why the strongest men are emotionally intelligent. They recognize when a woman is sharing, not to complain, but to connect. They don't run from her emotions, they regulate them with presence. And sometimes the deepest truth is this: when a woman tells you her problems, she's not even talking about those problems, she's talking about you. She's indirectly telling you what's missing, what she feels, what she's afraid to say outright. Her story about her day might actually be a coded message about how she feels, unseen or disconnected from you. That's why awareness matters. A man who listens with emotional intelligence can read between the lines. He can sense that the story isn't about her boss or her friend. It's about her emotional need for reassurance, attention, or connection. The ones who miss that end up confused when she says, "You don't understand me anymore." But she wasn't saying that out of nowhere. She was saying it every day, just in ways you didn't hear. When a woman tells you her problems, pay attention to how she looks at you afterward. There's always a moment, subtle but revealing, when she studies your face, searching for something in your eyes. She's not looking for pity, and she's not even looking for validation. She's looking to see if you see her differently now. Because in that moment of vulnerability, she's naked in a way that has nothing to do with her body. She's emotionally exposed, revealing a part of herself she's kept hidden from the rest of the world. And she's terrified that this openness will make you lose respect for her. That's why your reaction in that moment matters more than anything you'll ever say. If you meet her eyes and stay calm, steady, unjudging, accepting, she'll feel something that can't be faked. She'll feel safe in you. But if you flinch, if you look confused or uncomfortable, she'll close that door, maybe forever. Because women don't reopen those emotional doors once they feel they weren't met with understanding. Understand that in a world where most people listen just to reply, being a man who listens to understand is magnetic. Women are emotional beings by nature, but that doesn't mean they're irrational. It means they experience life through feeling first, logic second. When she opens up to you, she's not inviting you to solve her. She's inviting you to witness her. That's a spiritual act, not just an emotional one. Most men fail this test because they think attention equals approval. But no, she doesn't want you to agree with everything she says. She just wants to feel that her emotions are valid. The man who can make a woman feel emotionally understood creates a kind of bond that even physical attraction can't compete with. It's not about being soft or overly gentle. It's about being present. Because a masculine presence that stays grounded while she's emotional creates polarity. It makes her feel both protected and desired. However, not every woman who opens up deserves your energy. This is where discernment separates wise men from naive ones. Some women share their problems, not because they trust you, but because they want to transfer their emotional baggage to you. You'll know this type by how you feel after talking to her. Drained, heavy, emotionally tired. That's not vulnerability. That's emotional dumping. You have to learn to tell the difference. If she takes no accountability for her patterns, if every story paints her as the victim, if she never seeks growth or reflection, she's not opening up, she's offloading. Don't confuse emotional chaos with depth. A woman who truly values you will bring her storms with humility, not entitlement. She'll share her pain, not to make you responsible for it, but because she respects your ability to listen without losing yourself in it. That's the kind of woman worth staying open for. The secret is this: when she brings you her emotions, she's not looking for a wall, but she's not looking for a sponge either. She wants a mirror, a man who reflects her emotions with steadiness, not reaction. If she cries, you don't need to cry with her. You simply be there. Your silence, your eye contact, your composure, that's what communicates safety. Women associate consistency with trust. The more consistent your energy remains through her emotional fluctuations, the deeper her attraction grows. Because it tells her something primal: he won't abandon me when I'm at my worst. That's what every woman is subconsciously searching for. Not a man who promises her forever, but a man whose energy doesn't collapse under her chaos. That kind of masculine stillness can heal wounds that years of therapy can't. There's another layer here that few men understand. When a woman tells you her problems, she's also showing you how she loves. Pay attention to how she talks about the people who hurt her, the way she describes conflict, the way she takes or avoids accountability. If she blames everyone else for her pain, she'll eventually blame you too. If she speaks with bitterness about her past, she hasn't healed it. But if she shares her pain with awareness, if she can admit her mistakes, see lessons instead of enemies, that's a woman growing through her wounds instead of living in them. And that's the kind of woman who won't turn your love into a battleground. Understanding her emotional language before you get emotionally involved with her is not cynicism, it's wisdom. Because the way she handles her problems when talking to you is a preview of how she'll handle problems with you. Don't underestimate the power of subtle reactions in those conversations. The way you lean in, the tone you use, the pauses between your words, they all carry meaning. Women are hypersensitive to emotional microsignals. You might think you're being neutral, but she's reading everything: your breath, your eyes, your posture. So if you're impatient or distracted, she'll feel it. But if your attention is full, calm, unwavering, genuinely engaged, she'll melt into that presence without even realizing it. That's how emotional intimacy begins. It's not built through grand gestures or romantic confessions. It's built in these small, ordinary moments where you show her that her inner world matters. When a woman feels that kind of presence from a man, she starts to relax her defenses. She begins to associate you with peace instead of pressure. And that's when she falls, not for what you say, but for how she feels when she's near you. The irony is, the less you try to fix her, the more she'll feel fixed. Because most women don't need rescuing, they need resonance. They don't need solutions, they need space to breathe through their emotions without judgment. And when you give them that space, something powerful happens. Their nervous system begins to synchronize with yours. Her breathing slows, her tone softens, she feels anchored, and in that space of calm, she begins to self-correct. That's why masculine stillness is so healing. It doesn't do anything, it simply is. Your energy becomes her reference point for balance. You stop being just a man in her life and become the emotional center of it. That's why women stay with men who make them feel safe. Not because those men are perfect, but because their peace feels like home. But let's not sugarcoat it. Sometimes when she tells you her problems, it's not a moment of connection, it's a test. She's testing whether your composure is real or performative. She might bring up something controversial, emotional, or even manipulative, not because she wants drama, but because she wants to feel your energy. Can you stay calm when she's reactive? Can you stay masculine when she's emotional? Can you stay loving without being weak? That's what she's measuring. Because deep down, women don't trust words, they trust emotional consistency. Every time she gets emotional and you stay grounded, she feels safer. Every time you react with anger or impatience, she feels unsafe. And attraction can't survive where safety doesn't exist. So don't fear her emotional storms, master your stillness within them. That's how respect is built. Sometimes the greatest strength a man can show is silence. Not the cold, distant kind, but the aware kind. The silence that says, I hear you, I'm here, you're not alone. You don't need to always respond with words. Sometimes a look, a gentle touch, or quiet presence says everything. But that silence must come from inner strength, not avoidance. If your silence comes from fear, she'll feel abandoned. But if it comes from emotional stability, she'll feel protected. It's all about the energy behind your quiet. That's why emotional awareness is so crucial. Not to manipulate her, but to master yourself. Because once you understand that every emotional outburst from her is simply a reflection of her need to feel safe, you stop taking it personally. You start responding with patience instead of defensiveness. That's when you step into real masculinity, not reactive but responsive. And here's the final truth. Most men never realize, when a woman tells you her problems, she's not just showing you what she's struggling with, she's showing you what she values. If she constantly talks about people who mistreat her, she values loyalty. If she worries about being abandoned, she values reassurance. If she cries over not feeling seen, she values attention. Her problems are windows into her priorities, and the man who listens deeply enough can see what kind of love she truly craves. But here's the catch. Once you understand that, don't weaponize it. Don't use her vulnerabilities as leverage, because nothing kills feminine trust faster than realizing her openness became your advantage. Protect what she shares. Handle her emotions like fragile glass, not because she's weak, but because her vulnerability is the rarest gift a woman can give. When you can hold that with strength, patience, and respect, you become unforgettable. When she opens up to you again, when she tells you about her fears, her insecurities, or the things she hides even from her closest friends, that's the real crossroad. Because now she's not testing you anymore. She's revealing how much of her heart she's willing to hand over. What you do with that information will decide everything. If you rush to comfort her with empty words or oversimplifies, she'll feel patronized. If you minimize what she's saying, she'll feel unseen. But if you hold that emotional space with grounded strength, if you show her that her vulnerability doesn't intimidate you, you'll give her something she rarely experiences, emotional safety, without judgment. That's when attraction transforms into connection, because she'll feel something she can't describe, that rare sense of being known. And once a woman feels that from a man, no amount of charm, money, or status from others can replace it. It's not about what you give her externally, it's about what you allow her to feel internally when she's around you. But here's the trap that destroys most men. When she starts leaning on you emotionally, they confuse empathy with obligation. They start carrying her pain as if it's their responsibility to fix it. That's where resentment begins. You have to remember, compassion doesn't mean consumption. Her emotions are hers to process, not yours to internalize. If you become the man who always absorbs her heaviness, you'll eventually burn out, and ironically, she'll lose respect for you, because the masculine energy that attracts her is rooted in self-containment, not self-sacrifice. She doesn't want you to drown with her. She wants to know that you can stand firm while she finds her balance again. That's why emotional boundaries are crucial, not to push her away, but to preserve the integrity of your own peace. When she sees that your love doesn't come at the cost of your stability, she begins to admire you in a way that goes beyond attraction. She starts to trust you, and that trust is sacred, because once she trusts your emotional frame, she'll begin to show you her truth, the sides of her personality she hides from everyone else, the childlike softness beneath her strength, the sensitivity behind her confidence, the vulnerability behind her sarcasm. You'll see layers of her that most people never even glimpse, and that's where the beauty of masculine energy lies. Not in control, but in containment. When you can hold her truth without trying to change it, she relaxes into her femininity, naturally. She no longer feels the need to be defensive, to dominate, or to control, because now she knows she's safe with a man who doesn't react, a man who leads through stillness. That's what women crave more than anything. Not perfection, not power, but peace. A kind of peace that whispers, you can be all of you here, and I'll still stay grounded. But remember, this isn't just about her emotions, it's also about yours. When you learn to listen without reacting, you're not only creating safety for her, you're training your mind to master your own internal chaos. Every time you stay composed in the face of her storm, you're rewiring your nervous system to stay calm under emotional pressure. You become more disciplined, more controlled, more powerful. That's why relationships, even the difficult ones, are the greatest classrooms for masculine growth. They show you where you still lose control, where you still seek validation, where your ego still dictates your behavior. When you can sit across from a woman crying, angry, or confused, and still maintain your grounded presence, you've won the quietest, hardest battle, mastery over yourself. That's what separates the man she outgrows from the man she evolves beside. At the deepest level, her emotional openness is an invitation, not to fix her, not to save her, but to understand her world. It's her way of asking, can your strength exist without dominance? Can your care exist without control? Most men fail this invitation because they mistake leadership for authority. But true leadership in love isn't about leading her emotions, it's about leading your own. When you can stay calm in the presence of chaos, she begins to trust your direction, not because you forced it, but because you earned it. She follows your energy, not your commands. That's what makes her devotion real. A woman doesn't submit to words, she submits to peace. And that peace is born from self-awareness, from being the man who knows that his silence, when rooted in strength, is more powerful than any lecture could ever be. Here's something few men realize. The moment you stop reacting emotionally, you become mysterious to her again. She can't read you, she can't manipulate your emotions, and she can't predict your next move. That unpredictability is magnetic. It reignites attraction because it reminds her of something primal, that she's dealing with a man who lives from his center, not his impulses. You'll notice that the same woman who used to argue with you will now soften her tone. The same woman who used to test you will now lean into your energy. That's not magic, that's emotional polarity. The more you stay in control of your emotions, the more she feels drawn to your strength. But this only works when it's real, when it's not performed calmness, but genuine inner peace. She can sense the difference instantly. A man pretending to be composed still carries tension. A man who is composed carries gravity. When she shares her struggles with you, and you respond with emotional mastery, something profound shifts in the dynamic. You stop being just a partner or a potential lover. You become her anchor. She'll start to feel emotionally addicted to your presence, not because you say much, but because you radiate something she can't find elsewhere: stability. In a world full of men who mirror her chaos, your stillness becomes rare. It becomes intoxicating. That's why some women, even after losing such men, never move on emotionally, because that kind of calm can't be replaced by excitement. The man who gives her adrenaline is temporary. The man who gives her peace becomes unforgettable. She'll realize too late sometimes that the same peace she took for granted was the very thing she was searching for all along. However, you must protect this peace fiercely. Not every emotional connection deserves your consistency. Some women will confuse your calmness for weakness and try to push your limits. They'll mistake your silence for submission, your patience for passivity. That's where boundaries must meet empathy. Because peace without boundaries turns into people-pleasing, and patience without limits turns into self-destruction. You have to know when to step back, when to say, "This energy isn't mine to fix." That's not being cold, that's being conscious. When you protect your emotional energy, you preserve your masculine edge. And paradoxically, that's when women respect you more. Because deep down, they don't want a man who absorbs their chaos. They want one who stays untouched by it. A man whose peace is so strong that even her storms can't move it. Eventually, when she tells you her problems again, months or years later, the conversation will feel different, because you'll have changed. You'll listen with more depth, but with less attachment. You'll empathize without over-investing. You'll understand her emotions, but you won't drown in them. That's emotional evolution, the ability to feel deeply without losing your center. You'll start to realize that her emotions were never your responsibility. They were your training ground. Every tear, every outburst, every conversation that once frustrated you was simply the universe teaching you one lesson: control over yourself is the foundation of love. Without it, affection becomes chaos. With it, connection becomes art. That's when you stop being reactive and start being intentional, no longer pulled by emotions, but guided by awareness. So the next time she tells you her problems, whether it's your woman, your ex, or someone you barely know, listen with understanding but respond with strength. Let her emotions pass through you like waves against a rock, acknowledged but not absorbed, because the goal isn't to solve her world, it's to remain solid in yours. When you can do that, you stop chasing feminine energy and start embodying masculine power. You stop trying to be liked and start being respected, and she'll feel that, not through your words, but through your silence. The calm, steady, unbothered silence of a man who doesn't need to control her emotions because he's already mastered his own. That's the kind of presence that lingers long after the conversation ends. That's the kind of man she'll think about when the world feels too heavy. The man who never tried to fix her, but somehow, just by being himself, made her feel whole. When your calm becomes constant, when she realizes she can no longer disturb your peace or control your emotional reactions, something shifts inside her. At first, she'll try to convince herself she doesn't care. She'll tell her friends she's over it, that you're cold, emotionless, distant. But deep down, that stillness starts echoing inside her like an unanswered question. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing? Why isn't he falling apart like men usually do? That confusion becomes obsession, because what she once used to validate her power, your attention, your emotions, your energy, is suddenly gone. And what women can't understand, they seek to control. What they can't control, they start to desire. It's a law of polarity. The moment you stop giving her emotional fuel, she starts craving the fire she once took for granted. Your silence begins to haunt her, because it speaks louder than any argument ever could. See? A man's peace is his ultimate weapon in a world addicted to noise. Most men lose their power by explaining, reacting, or proving themselves. But the man who stays quiet, not out of weakness, but out of understanding, becomes a mirror she can't escape. Your silence forces her to sit with herself, to feel her guilt, her confusion, her regret. You no longer carry her emotions for her, you make her face them. That's when her mind starts replaying every moment you handled her storms with grace. She'll remember the time she pushed you, tested you, provoked you, and you stayed composed. At the time, she mistook it for indifference, but now she realizes it was strength, because every emotional game she played came from fear, and every calm response you gave came from power. She'll start to see the difference between the chaos she used to chase and the peace she never understood. That's the paradox of feminine energy. It's drawn to what it can't easily define. The moment she feels your distance isn't anger but composure, she starts to question her perception of you. She begins to see that while she was reacting from emotion, you are operating from awareness. That gap in emotional control is what creates attraction on a primal level. A woman can't emotionally bond with a man she doesn't respect, and she can't respect a man who can't manage his emotions. But when she sees that you're not angry, not bitter, not desperate, just peaceful, that respect turns into reverence, because peace in a man is proof of mastery. It tells her you're no longer fighting for her validation. You're living from your value. You no longer need her to recognize your worth. You've already found it within yourself. And that kind of self-certainty makes you unforgettable. What she feels next is quiet panic, because she'll start to realize that she's lost emotional access to you. You're not the same man she could guilt, manipulate, or emotionally provoke anymore. You're not giving her the drama that used to feed her sense of control. Instead, you've become unpredictable, not in behavior, but in energy. She can't tell if you care or not, because your peace looks the same in both cases. That uncertainty creates tension, and in the feminine mind, tension equals attraction. She'll start testing again, small messages, subtle posts, maybe even random excuses to reach out. But what she's really doing is trying to feel that emotional power she once had over you. And when she realizes she doesn't anymore, it shakes her, because losing control over a man she once controlled isn't just about ego, it's about identity. Here's the truth that breaks most women. They don't regret losing the man who begged. They regret losing the man who stopped needing them. The begging man was replaceable. Every woman's had one. But the man who could detach with grace, who could walk away without hate, who could find peace without her, that man is irreplaceable, because his calm reminds her of everything she lacks. His detachment exposes the emotional instability she's been running from. She'll see in your silence the reflection of her chaos, and it will torment her. Not because you said anything cruel, but because you didn't have to. You showed her that your love was a choice, not a weakness, and when that choice was no longer honored, you simply withdrew it. No explanations, no arguments, just quiet, dignified absence. That kind of energy lingers in a woman's heart, long after lust fades. But don't think this peace came without pain. Every man who masters detachment went through the fire first. He learned the hard way that emotional overinvestment never brings loyalty, it breeds entitlement. He realized that love, when given without boundaries, turns into a transaction, and he saw how easily women can confuse attention for weakness. That's why the calm you now carry isn't numbness, it's wisdom. You've learned that not every woman deserves your emotional energy, that your peace isn't a gift to be handed out freely, it's earned through respect, consistency, and reciprocation. The moment you stopped trying to be understood, you started to understand everything. Because sometimes, silence isn't just strength, it's strategy. You stopped trying to make her see your worth, and decided to let her feel the absence of it instead. That's when power shifted. Now she's in the phase of quiet reflection. Maybe she's dating someone new. Maybe she's pretending to have moved on. But no matter what, your presence still echoes in her mind. Because while other men may give her attention, none give her peace. While others may chase, none remain grounded. And while others might match her emotions, none can match your stillness. she'll start noticing the contrast, the way every other man reacts too quickly, talks too much, feels too desperate to please. You've ruined her for the emotionally weak, because now she knows what masculine composure feels like. She knows what it's like to be near a man who doesn't lose control when she does. That realization hits hard, because once a woman experiences emotional safety in your presence, she can't forget it, even if she tries to. And that's when she starts circling back. It might not be immediate, and it might not be obvious, but her energy shifts. Suddenly, she's watching your stories again. She's engaging subtly, maybe even sending indirect signals through mutual friends. You'll sense it, the energy of curiosity returning. She'll start wondering what your life looks like now, who you're talking to, what's changed. And when she sees that you're unbothered, that you've grown even calmer, even more focused, it unsettles her deeply, because that peace you once thought was just indifference has evolved into power. You've become what most men never do, emotionally sovereign. You no longer chase connection, you attract it naturally. Because when your validation no longer depends on her recognition, your presence begins to carry the kind of gravity she can't escape. But this is where many men make their mistake. When she starts showing interest again, they rush back. They think her curiosity means commitment, that her regret means reconciliation. But that's not how emotional power works. Her reaching out isn't proof of love, it's proof of realization. She's realizing the value of what she lost. But that doesn't mean she's ready to honor it. So when she returns, and she will, don't greet her with open desperation. Greet her with calm indifference, not coldness, but composure. Show her that your peace isn't conditional on her presence anymore. That's what makes your silence powerful. It's not punishment, it's proof of evolution. You're not the man who used to react to every emotional shift. You're the man who learned that distance reveals truth faster than dialogue ever could. Eventually, she'll see it, that the man she left trying to control, she now respects for walking away. That the peace she once mocked, she now craves. That the silence she called arrogance, she now calls strength. And in that moment of realization, her ego will break before her heart does. Because women don't regret losing the attention of a man. They regret losing access to his energy. The kind that doesn't waver, doesn't beg, doesn't chase. The kind that remains calm, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. You'll have become something rare. A man who no longer needs validation to feel valuable. And she'll realize that in trying to test your strength, she ended up revealing her weakness. You'll move on, quietly, peacefully, while she remains haunted by the man who never raised his voice, never lost his frame, and yet somehow left the loudest echo in her soul. The longer your silence continues, the more it starts to eat away at her composure. At first, she told herself that you were playing games, that eventually you'd reach out, that this quiet was just another form of manipulation. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks quietly slid into months, she began to feel something she didn't expect, the sharp, hollow ache of irrelevance. The woman who once believed she was unforgettable is now haunted by the idea that she could be forgotten. That thought terrifies her more than losing you ever did. Because deep down, what women fear most isn't rejection, it's emotional invisibility. And that's exactly what your absence gives her. You're not angry, not bitter, not resentful. You've simply stopped existing in her narrative, and that realization is what finally breaks her ego. She'll start checking your last scene, revisiting old photos, scrolling through conversations trying to find where the dynamic shifted, and that's when she'll feel it. The moment she lost emotional control over you, she also lost her sense of importance. What begins as curiosity quickly transforms into confusion. She can't understand how you can appear so unaffected, how your life seems to have moved forward with such quiet strength. You're not posting quotes about heartbreak, not trying to get her attention, not doing anything that indicates pain. Instead, you've become a ghost that walks through her mind. You've mastered detachment in a way she never expected you to. You've learned that the most powerful revenge isn't retaliation, it's regeneration. The man she remembers was reactive, emotional, passionate to the point of self-destruction. But the man she sees now, he's calm, focused, unavailable. You've evolved from being her emotional servant to being your own master. And that evolution doesn't just confuse her, it intimidates her. Because now she realizes she was never the source of your happiness, only a temporary part of your journey toward it. Slowly your silence starts speaking to her, louder than words ever could. It tells her that you've reclaimed the parts of yourself you gave away. It tells her that you no longer need validation to feel valuable. It tells her that peace has become your new obsession, not love, not lust, not closure. And that peace terrifies her because it represents freedom, the kind of freedom she doesn't have. You see, while she may appear fine on the surface, posting selfies, going out, smiling for the camera inside, there's a gnawing emptiness that no distraction can fill. Because attention without connection feels like noise, and she's drowning in it. Every man she meets after you feels off. Too eager, too talkative, too emotional, too easy. They remind her of the truth she tried to suppress, that your composure wasn't indifference, it was depth. And that kind of depth doesn't disappear. It echoes. It's around this time she begins to romanticize the very things she once criticized about you. The quiet nature she called boring now feels mysterious. The boundaries she labeled cold now look like strength. The discipline she mocked as unfeeling now feels like safety. It's not that you've changed drastically, it's that her perception finally caught up to your reality. She's beginning to see that the qualities she once found frustrating were the same qualities that made her feel grounded in your presence. She'll remember how your voice sounded when you weren't trying to argue but to understand. She'll recall the way you never matched her chaos, but absorbed it like calm water swallowing a storm. And the more she remembers, the more she regrets. 'Cause now every man she meets is loud, where you were still, shallow where you were deep, fragile where you were strong. You became the standard she can't admit exists, because admitting it would mean admitting she lost something irreplaceable. And yet, despite her regret, pride keeps her quiet. She'll rehearse messages she'll never send, replay moments she'll never rewrite, and convince herself that you probably don't care anymore. But that's the part that stings the most. You really don't. You've reached that rare point where your peace means more to you than her presence ever did. You no longer crave the validation of her apology or her return. You've tasted silence, and it's sweeter than any conversation she could offer. You've realized that closure doesn't come from understanding why she did what she did. It comes from accepting that you no longer need to understand it. That's true power, when the very thing that once consumed your thoughts now barely crosses your mind. You don't miss her, you miss the man you used to be before you gave your power away. But now that you've reclaimed it, you're never losing it again. Her guilt begins to morph into something else, longing. She starts to see your silence, not as punishment, but as proof. Proof that you were never dependent on her for your sense of worth. Proof that your love was a choice, not a chain. And that proof cuts deep, because women crave significance in the lives of men they once held. When they realize they no longer have that significance, it bruises their identity. You've become the ghost that humbles her, not by haunting her, but by disappearing completely. That's why she suddenly feels drawn to you again, because your absence reminds her of her own emotional instability. She wants back into your life, not to love you again, but to feel powerful again. But this time, the door stays closed, because you've learned something she hasn't. Peace is far more satisfying than validation. As she continues to process that realization, life gives her the exact reflection she needs. She meets a man just like her old self, a man who seeks validation, who overtexts, who overexplains, who can't stand the quiet. And for the first time, she experiences what it feels like to be on the other side, to be chased, to be clung to be emotionally suffocated. It exhausts her, and that's when it clicks. That's when she finally understands what your silence really meant. It wasn't cruelty, it was maturity. It wasn't indifference, it was control. It wasn't the absence of care, it was the presence of self-respect. You were never trying to win her back. You were trying to win yourself back, and you did. She might never admit it, but deep down, she knows you outgrew her. You evolved while she repeated. You transcended while she cycled, and that quiet truth will echo in her mind every time she tries to replace you. At this stage, her regret becomes spiritual. She starts feeling your absence in places that have nothing to do with romance, in her mornings, in her silence, in her thoughts before bed. You became more than a memory. You became a lesson. The lesson that not every man is replaceable, that not every love can be replicated, and that not every silence means indifference. You taught her the cost of emotional games, that when you play with depth, you eventually drown in it. You taught her that not every goodbye means pain. Sometimes it means peace. And most importantly, you taught her that the calmest men are often the most dangerous, because they don't fight for attention, they attract it by existing. And when such a man leaves your life, you don't just lose a partner, you lose balance. That's why she'll never find another version of you, because the world rarely produces men who can love deeply and still walk away quietly. Meanwhile, you're no longer watching her stories, checking her status, or wondering how she feels. You're somewhere else entirely, physically, mentally, spiritually. You've poured your energy into purpose, growth, and self-mastery. You're not bitter, you're focused. The woman who once occupied your every thought is now just a page in the story of your evolution, because men who master detachment don't hate their past, they respect it. It made them sharper. It built the emotional armor that no manipulation can pierce again. You no longer chase what disturbs your peace, and that's what makes you untouchable. Every woman after her will sense it. That calm dominance, that quiet self-assurance, that refusal to chase what isn't aligned. It's not arrogance, it's ascension. You've transcended the need to prove yourself to anyone, especially to the one who once underestimated you. And in the end, when she finally sees you again, maybe years later, by chance or through a screen, she won't recognize the man before her. Not because you've changed physically, but because your energy has transformed. The boy who once sought closure now walks like he's never been broken. The man who once waited for a text now commands the room with his silence. She'll feel it instantly, that her relevance in your story has expired. And while she may smile, say hello, or pretend she's fine, inside, she'll feel the weight of her choices. Because she'll realize that while she was busy seeking excitement, she lost the one thing every woman craves, emotional safety. And you'll simply nod, wish her well, and walk away. Not with resentment, but with gratitude. Because her loss was your awakening. You didn't just lose her, you found you. And that's the kind of ending no heartbreak can take away. The moment a man learns that peace, once found, is never worth trading for chaos again.